Don't try to change the world. Just be custodian of the 100 meters where you live. I think that can make a huge difference.
More and more communication teams will be asked to do CSR and also use it as a way of learning more about the community that you are nourishing or community that you're serving.
It's important more and more now to have an expectation match between the donor and the donee.
Don't tell the story from your CEO's point of view or your point of view or your company's point of view. Tell the story through the voice of the end beneficiary.
Keep your eyes and ears open, because if you are not able to help, somebody comes to you seeking help. If you are unable to help, connect some nice people to them so that they don't get disappointed.
Accountability is built into the process. So therefore, you will have to be very careful with the way you are designing the program. You are allocating the funds and how you report it back to the CSR committee of the board.
CSR money, everything is audited and accounted for. At the end of it, I actually give an entire accountability of every penny.
In today's world, more and more communication professionals are embracing CSR, and they are loving it. It's not just a job for them, it's a chance to use their skills for good, to help society and the environment. Whether they're telling powerful stories, connecting with people, or building relationships with communities, CSR lets them make a real difference. And our chat today is all about inspiring more communication folks who might want to try CSR work. And we're lucky to have two amazing guests with us. First up is Deepa Dey, an integrated comms, CSR, sustainability advocacy specialist. Deepa's journey into CSR was unexpected, but now she's grateful every single day for the person who pushed her in that direction. Also joining virtually is Shishir Joshi, who is CEO and founder of Project Mumbai, a not-for-profit model of public-private people partnership. A lawyer by education and a journalist by profession, something he left 15 years ago to follow his passion. And the Project Mumbai tagline, Mumbai ke liye kuch bhi karega, literally epitomizes it. From helping during COVID-19 to mental health, environmental projects and more, Project Mumbai has impacted over 1.6 crore lives so far. And that's like about 8,000 people every day? And Project Mumbai is just 5 years old. So, get ready for an interesting chat as we explore CSR communication with Deepa and Shishir, two leaders making the world a better place. Welcome, Deepa and Shishir.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Quite excited to be here, Nandini, and Deepa, of course.
Well, let's start with you, Shishir. So, typically, I find that organizations look at health, education, women empowerment. What is your suggestion to comms professionals like us to go beyond this? How to explore more themes?
Well, just to let me answer a question with a question. Is life only about these three things?
Very true.
And when we look at Mumbai as a country, that's what Project Mumbai looks at. There's everything that impacts people's lives. There's mobility, like transport. There's elderly care. There is people who are differently abled. There is healthcare in a different way. There's mental health, and these are just few of those hundreds of things which impact people's lives. So I think that's where I feel that it's important that a more collaborative approach, more open-minded approach from organizations which have the ability to think in a much more nicer way for the community would really help NGOs to create some kind of a coexisting situation where cities can be better places to live.
So Deepa, from that, how do you advise internally on where to put budgets to have that open-minded approach that Shishir just spoke about?
So I agree with Shishir that we should not restrict ourselves to one or two spaces where we can support. However, typically when a corporate or a company sets down to plan its CSR outreach, you start with the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, and then you come down to understanding what are the different imperatives of the government in your society, your community, your state, and to see how you can bring your knowledge, your experience to add on to that so that you actually have a greater impact.
But what is the uptake you find with leadership to actually go beyond the conventional CSR themes?
So I think what I have found in my career is that companies tend to open up more towards areas which they know better. For instance, a company like Microsoft will probably work towards tech. A company like ours work towards, say, water. The Unilever Foundation is all about doing, Hindustan Unilever Foundation is all about doing amazing work around water.
Right.
In my past life, when I used to work with GSK, we used to work very closely with the local and the union government on various works and projects around nutrition. So what you know, what you are able to actually support better, I think that's the natural fit.
Right.
So I felt that within the organization, if you're trying to look at budgets and you're trying to look at allocation of the 2% into multiple projects, then that kind of works better.
So while you want to make a difference, what are the kind of challenges you face on the ground with corporates?
More conversations need to be had, because I think it's time that we all get out of our silos. Because as a non-profit, maybe I'm living in a silo and I only go to those 3 places. As a corporate head, Deepa might go to the conventionally box-tick non-profits. And as other professionals, they lead only to those whom they're comfortable with. But there are, if I start having conversations, say, listen, I'm going to connect you to somebody whom I feel is good. Why don't you meet them? So let's go beyond our own selfish needs, because I don't say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Have you been able to do something like that?
Well, actually, in my personal capacity, yes, I do a lot of that, because I believe in the power of collaboration. And I believe that, we all have our own networks, and it's amazing if you can actually bring your network and light up somebody else's. There can be nothing better than that, whether it is for CSR or whether it is for anything else.
How are corporates getting their employees to volunteer more, to engage?
I think that's a very good question, because ever since this law came into play, a lot of companies have started looking internally to see how can they make their employees a part of this journey. So I've had the privilege of working for quite a few years with GSK, and GSK globally has a very strong employee volunteering program. So we used to have something called the Orange Day, which was one day in the year where every single employee could take time off from work and go and do some volunteering work. Now, sometimes it used to be more structured, like you used to identify some NGOs that you could go and work with as a group, as a function, as a team. And sometimes you could do it on an individual level. We also had something called the Pulse program, which was a global program where an employee could take a few months off and actually be an embedded intern or an embedded resource within another NGO and help them upskill. For instance, I could probably spend 3 months with an NGO and teach them how to communicate better or advocate their case better. And those 3 months, I'm still on the rolls of the organization, but I'm actually doing something which my heart is set on. So I think there are lots of such ways that are continuing to happen, and I think that's fantastic, because if you take your employees on the same journey, you bring alive the work that you're doing for the community, and make it so much real.
One is that, okay, you are giving these opportunities to employees, but how do you get employees to be enthused to actually rally behind?
Well, you'll be surprised. They are absolutely standing with their hands up. I mean, they are obviously coming in, and in fact, they used to ask us for more such activities, because I think somewhere, so everybody has a 9-to-5 job and the set of deliverables and multiple Excel sheets, right? At the end of the day, you also have a connection to your community. And if there is a way you can strengthen that connection, you can bring something to it and improve that community, I think that's fantastic. I mean, look at the manufacturing sites. We have excellent programs for community development across all our manufacturing sites at the Hindustan Unilever. And our employees are so excited and so participative in that. So I think if you can find the right things for the employees to be a part of, they will definitely come.
People want to do good.
Yeah, they definitely do. But there will be people who will say, no, it's not for me. And that's fine. I mean, there will always be the outlier. But in general, people do.
But Shishir, one is wanting to do good and companies are putting monies behind it. how do you assure them, or how do they get the confidence that the money that they've put is actually being put to good use?
Project Mumbai believes that there's a good boon in everyone. And this is where the kindness boon that people have, and our effort is to make Mumbai the country's kindness capital. But more important than getting people out there is, can we create a more sustained engagement? Maybe employee engagement, which is something which is now evolving, that increasingly, and I think Deepa did touch upon it, earlier employees stepped out to do something. Now, so that was volunteering their time. Now this volunteering time comes in the form of skill sets, volunteering time comes in form of processes. So I've got organizations working with Project Mumbai who have employees coming with a sustained, let's say a beach cleanup to maybe XYZ teaching, but a bunch of employees are only working in creating SOPs for us. Some of them are providing skill sets, some of them are providing technology. So there's a wholesome kind of approach that's coming in, and there's fundraise that's happening. Can we start maybe having more and more such policies to say, can I give 2 rupees of my salary for, these are the 15 options available. So not just the 2% CSR, but 2% of an employee's through his willingness can also start coming in. So some of these smaller causes, because let's say I'm a large corporate, I look at a larger NGO, that's where it's coming. But let's say I could be an individual and I see a little small NGO working on a non-profit or an activity which is not maybe financially compliant also, but that opening up to say, okay, my salary, a bit of my salary should go there. That kind of an encouragement will change things even more, because cities are growing bigger, wider, urban pockets are growing even bigger, and everybody needs some kind of a support. Financial support helps. Bigger companies can come with compliance support, but money will definitely open up. And people can come in training the non-profits to say, this is how we can do that. So not just, so I've got one of the largest multinationals helping us putting all our HR processes in place. Another one has come in to say, we'll put all your SOPs for financials in place. Great, because this is something which has been lacking, and this should change things.
Oh,
if I could just add on to this, there are a lot of companies who actually have a process by way an employee can give a part of their salary, and the company then matches that, and then that goes towards the cause. So it's already happening, but I think it has to be embedded in the culture of the organization. And like Unilever is a very purpose-driven culture. GSK was amazingly volunteering, caring for community culture. So I think when you have your company culture that is kind of driving you to do something outside of that, like your framework of what you need to do, I think that's going to bring about the change that Shishir has been talking about.
But Shishir, if I as a corporate, I'm putting in money, I want to be assured that the money has been put to good use. So
today things have changed, that when money is coming in, everybody, even earlier times when I would give somebody money, I would ask, ye paisa kaise kharch kiya?
Exactly.
Okay, now it's a matter of compliances. CSR money, everything is audited and accounted for. So if I am asking for 10 rupees, I have to explain through my plan, a business plan, where am I using it? And once I'm done with it, I give what we call the utilization certificate. At the end of it, I actually give an entire accountability of every penny. So if I've used 8 of the 10, the remaining 2, I have to give it back. I can't fudge. So that transparency leads to trust, that leads to a long-lasting relationship, and that leads to a further kind of engagement between people. So transparency and credibility is very, very important.
CSR is a company law item, so therefore accountability is built into the process.
Right.
So therefore you will have to be very careful with the way you are designing the program, you are allocating the funds, and how you report it back to the CSR committee of the board. So every penny that you are spending has to be accounted for, and of course there is a very clear indication of output and outcome that has to be projected. So there are, of course, in my career I have taken help from the finance team to be able to help in do that, but there are all external agencies who are available, and advisories like the Big Four's advisories who work on CSR, they help you to track and report back to the organization in a manner that is very easy to understand and
Right.
it's very helpful.
So we all appreciate that CSR is a very important pillar when it comes to reputation of an organization. Can you elaborate on the role of communication team, you and me, on doing this?
So, I'm going to tell you a personal story. So, I have always been a communication professional all my life, and suddenly one fine day CSR was literally thrust upon me, and I was resisting it. And I was really fighting tooth and nail, saying that I don't want to do that. I already have a lot on my plate. But then I had this very astute colleague in HR, who's a very dear friend now, who just looked at me in the eye and said, just do it. Just do it for a year. If you don't want it, I'll take it back. And I just said, okay, I'm just going to give it a shot, but I'm not necessarily on board with it, because I was kind of sinking under the whole compliance and guardrails and reporting, and it just made it feel, it was actually quite overwhelming at that time, because I think the kind of job that communication professionals do, we do not necessarily play in that area. I think it's very close to finance or a brand or something like that. So initially I was resisting it, but I just told myself that, let's embrace it. Let's flow with it. Let's see where it takes you. And I just cannot, as you mentioned earlier, that I cannot but thank her for it, because I think it has definitely improved my knowledge about how to connect with communities. And communication is not necessarily column CC. Communication is to change mindset, is to build awareness, it is to change behavior. And so much of that you can actually do through CSR. And you can actually, if you can design your projects very carefully, you can actually bring it back to the business. To give you an example, if you are looking at, say, protein deficiency in India, and you want to add protein to a diet, and you want to work with a community that is actually showing markers which are deficient in protein, and you have done a CSR outreach by which you are explaining to them that the importance of adding certain items in their food, or importance of cooking their food in a particular way so that their children and the families get better diet, and you can see that happen over a period of time. I think that's immensely rewarding. And I know that there are certain markers which take a long time to come through in terms of indication of changes of those markers, but you see the changes in behavior. You see a lot of adaptation of techniques and processes and behaviors that are they were not there earlier. So I think that's a huge impact. So I think whenever any communication professional is looking at CSR, they need to look beyond column CC. Unfortunately, CSR column CC space is terribly limited, but there is so much other opportunity that you can actually work with.
What are you seeing as happening in the future?
In the sense
as a trend on CSR communication, in what is the change you've seen over the years, and what do you see happening tomorrow?
I think more and more communication teams will be asked to do CSR, and my only one-line suggestion to them is just embrace it. And use it as another way of connecting with your stakeholders, and also use it as a way of learning more about the community that you are nourishing or community that you're serving. So that's definitely one thing that I see is going to happen. The second thing that I see is going to happen is a lot more newer projects that are going to get supported, like for instance mental health. Say even before COVID, I don't think mental health was as big as it is right now. And while it is not probably taken the shape of a large format CSR outreach project for most organizations, I think organizations have understood the importance of it. Like in our organization, the general health and well-being includes mental health. I'm one of the mental health champions of the organization, and we do have a tracking mechanism to see how many people's lives we are touching, how many people's lives we are changing, what kind of support we can give them. And I think that will definitely, to Shishir's point, move into the NGO side one day. And if you are able to track and show value, you are going to attract more corpus.
And this is beyond the organization, this is with the communities.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. The moment you are able to put those mechanisms to actually assess the improvement, a company will definitely give you the 2%. They have to. But they will come to a project on mental health only when they say, how am I going to tell my board members how the money has been spent? Can you help me? And if that NGO is able to put together a framework by which they can share the outcome, then the corpus is going to come to them. Otherwise, like Shishir said, people will say, love the work that you do, but you know what? I still got to put my money behind something I'm able to measure.
Yeah, sure.
Because measurement is very, very critical, because if you see 2% of your profit is actually quite a lot of money.
Yeah. Agreed. Shishir, your take on what future holds?
It's exciting times. It's exciting times because the 2% has really kind of opened up opportunities. But it's important that both non-profits need to learn to start telling stories in a better way. Just to go about saying that, okay, here's a corporate, that means they have money, that means they'll give. It doesn't work. Same way, corporates, as I started off by saying, that need to also look at not just being a silo driven, because there are so many more important things. Deepa spoke about post-COVID, how mental health has become a very important subject. More and more people are talking about it openly. Similarly, the space of disability, more and more people are talking about that. Yet there is not as much kind of support that's coming in. Support through word of lip service, yes, अच्छा काम कर रहे हो, but अच्छे काम से पैसे नहीं मिलते हैं. So पैसे से और अच्छा काम हो सकता है.
You mentioned about technology. What is the role of technology that you see in communicating?
Engaging with hundreds and thousands of volunteers, and an interesting example that Deepa gave earlier, that employees today want more and more and more. Corporates want to engage their employees. Now, how do I get to understand that there's so much more happening? So what we've created, just to a simple example, is volunteering engagement. We've created a volunteer management platform. So I go onto my technology platform, I share with them 20 things that they can do stepping out. So I just don't want to do one thing today. Today I've done something in sustainability, tomorrow I may want to do something in animal care, the third day I may want to do something in nutrition. Now, how do I tell them? I can't keep calling each one of them, and there are so many of them in so many geographies. So technology, and a seamless technology with people's lives become easier, plus a matrix that gets created where people get incentivized, people get motivated. All these things requires not just understanding but high investment in technology. So it's important that separate budgets get allocated for technology. Data becomes a very important space also, because we all understand the value of data in the private sector. Non-profits are constantly engaging with people, with reports, with results, with utilization, with impact. That data, how do you put that together? How do you analyze the data? Use technology. So yes, I think one of the most important to help organizations grow is a very deft use of technology.